How many times do you unlock your phone every day? 50? 100? And you probably never think about whether it's actually secure. Spoiler, most people are using the weakest option. We've got 4 main ways to lock our phones: fingerprint sensors, facial recognition, pattern locks, and pins. Most people assume biometrics are automatically more secure than a simple password, but security isn't that simple. The real question isn't which is most secure, it's secure against what, because the answer changes depending on who's trying to get into your phone and how. So today, we're looking at how each one works, what they protect against, and which one you should actually be using.
Let's start with how these actually work, because the technology matters. Fingerprint sensors, whether it's Apple's Touch ID or Android's in-screen scanners, use capacitive or ultrasonic sensors to map the unique ridges and valleys of your fingertip. Your phone stores a mathematical template of your print, not an actual image. Here's how accurate they are. Touch ID has a false acceptance rate, or FAR for short, of about 1 in 50,000. That means if a random person tries to unlock your phone with their finger, they've got a 0.002% chance of success. Pretty good odds. Face ID uses 3D mapping. It projects thousands of infrared dots on your face, measures the depth and distance, and creates a detailed 3D model. It's not just taking a photo, it's scanning the actual geometry of your face, and it's even more accurate than fingerprints, with about 1 in a million false acceptance rate. Unless you have an identical twin, the chances of someone else's face unlocking your phone are astronomically low.
Pattern locks are simple. You draw a pattern connecting dots on a grid. Your phone stores that specific pattern and checks if you recreate it correctly. Pins are just numbers. But here's what makes them different. They're the only method that's purely cryptographic. Your phone encrypts all your data with a key derived from your PIN. Without the right numbers, the encryption can't be broken, at least not easily. So those are the basics. Now let's talk about what actually matters: security. Security isn't one size fits all. It depends on who is trying to get into your phone. Let's break it down by scenario. First scenario is casual snooping, like your friend, coworker, or partner. Pattern locks are the weakest here. You leave oil smudges on your screen in the exact shape of your pattern. Studies show attackers can guess the pattern correctly about 70% of the time just by looking at the smudges under the right light.
Pins are vulnerable to shoulder surfing, that is, someone watching over your shoulder as you type, but at least there's no permanent mark left on your screen. Fingerprints and Face ID are both strong here. Unless they physically force your finger onto the sensor or hold the phone to your face, they're locked out. But here's the catch. Face ID can work while you're sleeping. Fingerprint sensors have a similar issue. Someone could press your finger to the sensor while you're asleep or unconscious. Second scenario is sophisticated attacks, hackers, criminals, or someone who really knows what they're doing. Fingerprints can be lifted from surfaces and replicated. Researchers have unlocked phones using fingerprints copied from high-resolution photos. You can even make a mold from a lifted print. It's not easy, but it's possible. Contrastingly, Face ID is harder to fool. It requires a detailed 3D model of your face, not just a photo. But researchers have defeated it using expensive 3D printed masks. Again, not easy, but possible.
Pattern locks are the weakest here. A 3x3 grid has 389,112 possible combinations, but the average person only connects 5 dots, about 7,000 combos. Most use just 4 dots, giving you 1,624. That's fewer than a 4-digit PIN. And patterns are predictable. 44% start in the top left corner. 77% start in any corner. And 10% of people just draw the first letter of their name. Combined with visible smudges, you've got almost no real security. Pins can't be spoofed biologically, but they can be guessed through brute force. That's where someone just tries every possible combination. A 4-digit PIN has 10,000 combinations. A 6-digit has 1,000,000. Sounds secure, right? But it collapses in practice. In a study of 3.4 million pins, 10.7% of people chose 1, 2, 3, 4. Try just the 61 most common pins, and you'd crack a third of all passwords.
That's why phones add delays after wrong guesses. Without those protections, most pins would be cracked in minutes. Final scenario is coercion, someone actually forcing you to unlock your phone. This is where biometrics become a liability. In the US, courts have ruled that law enforcement can compel you to use your fingerprint or face to unlock your phone, but they cannot force you to reveal your PIN. Fifth Amendment protection applies to what you know, not what you are. So, if you're crossing a border, attending a protest, or in any situation where your phone might be forcibly accessed, a PIN is your strongest protection. So, which is most secure? There's no single answer. It depends on your threat model. For everyday protection against casual snooping, Face ID or fingerprint sensors are convenient and secure enough. Just make sure attention detection is enabled on Face ID, and be aware that both can potentially be used while you're asleep. For sophisticated attacks, a long, random PIN is your best option, at least 8 to 10 digits, and don't use common patterns like birth dates or repeated numbers. For situations where you might be compelled to unlock, disable biometrics temporarily and rely on your PIN. On iPhone, press the power button 5 times quickly to disable Face ID. On Android, hold power and select lockdown mode. The best approach for most people? Use a strong 6-digit or longer PIN as your primary security and enable biometrics for convenience. That way, you get the best of both worlds, quick access when you want it, and strong encryption protecting your data. And whatever you do, don't use pattern locks. Those smudges don't lie. Security isn't about finding the perfect method. It's about understanding the threats you actually face and choosing the right tool for the job. If this changed how you think about phone security, like and subscribe. It helps reach more curious minds like yourself. All right, that's it for this video. I'll catch you in the next one.